Good morning, dear students. We are going to discuss anatomy of the ear today. Now, from this picture, if you see, basically, the ear has been divided into three parts. That is external ear, middle ear, and internal ear. The components of external ear are, as you can see here, this is auricle, also called as pinna, also called as external ear. So the external ear is leading into a tube which is called as external acoustic meatus. So the external acoustic meatus from this picture, again you can make out it is partly made up of cartilage, which is shown in sky blue color, and partly it is made up of bone. Whole of the ear is lying in the temporal bone. Please remember, vitreous part of the temporal bone. Okay, temporal bone. Now, so external acoustic meatus and auricle are the parts of external ear. Now, once you move from external ear, you will be reaching to the middle ear. So, middle ear is like a hexagon structure, like it's a cube where you have 6 sides. So, it has roof, it has floor, it has lateral wall, it has medial wall, it has anterior wall, and it has posterior wall. Okay. So you can see whole of the ear is lying in the temporal bone. So the lateral boundary is formed by tympanic membrane. Roof is formed by temporal bone. Special plate of this temporal bone is tegmen tympani. Then floor is also formed by temporal bone. This plate of bone is separated from the middle ear by internal jugular vein. Medially, you are finding internal ear parts are seen. Okay. Then anteriorly, you can see middle ear is communicating with pharynx by means of a tube that is called as eustachian tube, also called as pharyngotympanic tube. Okay. Then, so this is the nasopharynx and this is the auditory tube or the eustachian tube or pharyngotympanic tube. Posteriorly, the middle ear is related to the mastoid process. So this is all middle ear. Okay. So inside the middle ear, you are finding 3 bones. The smallest bones we have here. Okay. The malleus, incus, and stapes. Okay. Then in the internal ear, we have bony shell, which is called as bony labyrinth. So in the bony labyrinth, we have the bony cochlea. Okay. So, and then you will see inside the bony cochlea, you will see inside the organ of hearing, that is organ of Corti. And here inside this bony labyrinth, you will see the semicircular canals where we have specialized hair cells concerned with the mechanism of hearing. So from this coil of cochlea and the semicircular canals, we are finding 2 parts of the 8th cranial nerve are coming. Okay, the 2 parts are, we have the cochlear part and the vestibular part of the vestibulocochlear nerve, which seems to be entering into the internal acoustic meatus. Okay, so that's how. So this is all ear. So you should have a clear concept like how ear looks and what are its various parts. Okay, that is. From this picture, it is now very much clear to us like the parts of the ear. We have external ear, we have middle ear, and then we have internal ear. The external ear is also called as pinna, and we see in the external ear the passage which is partly cartilage and bony is external auditory canal, and the entry point into the middle ear is tympanic membrane. Okay, when you just look at this pinna, there are certain parts like ear lobule. Okay, and we have this this is tragus. Quite opposite to that, we have antitragus. This is the passage which is leading into external acoustic meatus. So this area is concha. This is the triangular fossa and this is helix. Okay. So this is the helical area. The prominent rim of the auricle is called helix. Another curved prominence, what we see quite opposite to that, is antihelix in front of the helix. This area, the antihelix, describes curve around the deep capacious cavity, that is concha, which has the upper part, then Simba concha, and the lower part, that is cavum concha. Upper, middle, and lower parts. Okay, then tragus, small pointed eminence in front of the concha, projecting backwards over the meatus. This is the ear lobule. Then this is antitragus area. So pinna, that is the external ear, skin part, that is the auricle. Skin is thin. You just feel for yourself, and I'm telling you something like this. You can see the skin is thin, closely adherent to the underlying cartilage, that is the perichondrium, on lateral surface, covered with fine hairs, which has sebaceous glands, most numerous in the concha and scaphoid fossa. The cartilage is yellow elastic fibrocartilage absent at lobule, where we usually pierce it for earrings, right? And deficient between crusts of helix and tragus, connected to temporal bone by ligaments, 3 extrinsic and 6 intrinsic muscles. Okay. Now this is the nerve supply of the ear. We see like it is supplied by auriculotemporal nerve, great auricular nerve, and the 7th and 10th, that is the facial and vagus nerves. Okay. Then from the posterior aspect, you can see lesser occipital, great auricular nerves are contributing, which are the parts of which plexus? Cervical plexus. Okay, now this is a flow chart which helps us to just summarize the nerve supply. The sensory nerve supply, we have medial surface, lesser occipital nerve, great auricular nerve, lateral surface, auriculotemporal, great auricular. Then root is supplied by auricular branch of vagus. The motor supply to the muscles here comes from the facial nerve through temporal and posterior auricular branches. Now, blood supply of the auricle comes from posterior auricular artery and superficial temporal artery, which are the branches of external carotid artery. Then lymphatic drainage comes from pre-auricular, like parotid group of lymph nodes, post-auricular, that is mastoid group of lymph nodes, upper deep cervical lymph nodes. Okay, they all drain into these. Now coming to the external auditory canal. So it is, see here, this whole thing is external auditory canal extending from this concha to the tympanic membrane. So we know it is like lateral 1/3 is made up of cartilage and medial 2/3 is bony. So it is partly cartilaginous and partly bony canal. So cartilaginous part, when you measure, it is 8 mm in adults, continuous with the outside cartilage, that is pinna's cartilage. It is deficient superiorly, where space is occupied by internal ligament. Two deficiencies, we have fissures of Santorini, infections from parotid and superficial mastoid can enter the canal, and again from the canal it can enter into parotid and mastoid as well. So cartilaginous part, you can just feel for yourself. There we have skin which is thick, hair follicles are there, sebaceous, and special glands of the ear are called as wax secreting glands or ceruminous glands. Okay. Then bony part. This is 16 mm in adults, which is narrower than the cartilaginous part. The medial end is marked by tympanic sulcus, most part of the tympanic bone, superiorly by squamous part of the temporal bone. So notch of Rivinus, junction of tympanosquamous and tympanomastoid suture. Okay. So then skin is thin, and now usually we do not have hair here. Now coming to the blood supply, we have posterior auricular artery and superficial temporal artery. We also see two constrictions. One is at the bone cartilage junction of the external auditory canal. We also see one more constriction, 5 mm lateral to the tympanic membrane. Here skin is thin, there is no hair and lot of ceruminous glands. Okay. No, the blood supply of external auditory meatus, posterior auricular artery and superficial temporal artery. Nerve supply, you just see the main nerves, that is the mandibular branch of trigeminal. Then we have auricular branch of vagus and tympanic plexus. Okay. Lymphatic drainage, anterior wall is draining into pre-auricular group of lymph nodes, posterior wall and lymph nodes at the mastoid tip and rest, they are all draining into upper deep cervical group of lymph nodes. Now, tympanic membrane. So where did we see the tympanic membrane? Now, if you look at this picture, the tympanic membrane looks more clear, right? So it is looking as though it is a partition between external acoustic meatus and middle ear. Okay, so this is of course, it's a membrane, tympanic membrane. It can be asked for 5 marks or 3 marks question. Overall, external acoustic meatus may come for 3 marks. Middle ear is always an essay question. So this tympanic membrane is cone-shaped, thin, oval, disc-shaped structure. So it is not straight, but it is 55 degrees angled in the ear. The longest diameter is 9 to 10 mm, which is usually posterior-superior to anterior-superior. Shortest diameter is 8 to 9 millimeter. Okay, then width is 0.1 mm. Tympanic membrane. So circumference, see here. See, this is the auditory canal, that is the external auditory meatus. And this is the tympanic membrane which has been drawn. Just like circumference is thickened to form tympanic annulus. That means the place where it is fixed in the ear, that area is tympanic annulus, which fits in the groove called as tympanic sulcus. The tympanic sulcus is deficient superiorly. Okay, so we will try to see some better pictures. So this picture is showing a better clarity of tympanic membrane. We already saw the diameter thickness. Now this umbo, the maximum convexity where we have the handle of malleus attached to the tympanic membrane, that particular point is called as umbo. So the concavity is due to the attachment of handle of malleus. Okay. So better you just practice this picture for the tympanic membrane. Okay, this is all tympanic annulus sulcus. Annulus is the margin of the tympanic membrane. Okay, and this is the tympanic sulcus where the tympanic membrane is attached in the temporal bone. Okay, so this view has been taken from the middle ear side. That's the reason we are able to see the handle of malleus. Okay, so because of the attachment of the handle of malleus to the tympanic membrane, we are finding certain folds are formed. We have in front anterior malleolar fold, behind we have posterior malleolar fold, and above this fold, the tympanic membrane is quite like tensely attached. You call it as pars, loosely attached, you call it as pars flaccida, and rest of the tympanic membrane is tightly attached, you call it as pars tensa. Pars tensa is tightly attached, pars flaccida is loosely attached tympanic membrane between the anterior and posterior malleolar folds. Okay, so pars flaccida is the above one. So between anterior and posterior malleolar fold, it is lax in the sense loosely attached. Pars tensa, which is the rest of the membrane, is tense because it is attached to the handle of malleus. Radiating fibers of intermediate layer you will see here. Okay, then the tympanic membrane, if you just see, it has two surfaces from this picture. The surface which is towards external acoustic meatus is the lateral surface, and the surface which is towards the middle ear is medial surface. So towards the handle of malleus is medial surface. This pointed area itself is umbo. maximum convexity is due to the attachment of handle of malleus. This is umbo. Okay, so this side surface is lateral surface. Towards middle ear, the surface is medial surface. Okay, then the lateral surface is concave, directed downwards, forwards, and laterally. This picture is taken from medial side, hence it is medial surface. How can we figure it out? Because we have three ear ossicles, malleus, incus, and stapes, right? So the medial surface is convex. The maximum convexity is at the attachment of this handle of malleus, where you name it as umbo. Okay, yeah, like when we were doing facial nerve in our previous class, I told you the chorda tympani, like there is a facial canal which is associated with the middle ear, right? So that you can see there is one branch which is running here on the medial surface of the tympanic membrane, that is more towards the lateral wall of the middle ear. You call this nerve as chorda tympani nerve. So chorda tympani is medial to the handle of malleus. So this is chorda tympani. Do you remember where it does it supply? Chorda tympani is a branch of which nerve? Facial nerve, yes. And where does it supply? It is collecting special taste sensations from anterior two-thirds of the tongue, right? Okay. Now coming to the tympanic membrane structure, basically it is made up of three layers. It has outer layer which is called as cuticular layer, which is made up of stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Then we have the middle layer which is intermediate fibrous layer, which is outer radiating and inner circular fibers. Okay, you can see the radiating fibers like sun rays, and we are also finding circular fibers which are round, which is actually produced by intermediate fibrous layer. The innermost lining is the inner mucous layer. Inner mucous layer is pointing towards the middle ear cavity. Outer cuticular layer is lined by stratified squamous non-keratinized. That means it is more or less like skin, right? Okay. So only thing it is non-keratinized epithelium. Okay, that is. So handle of malleus and chorda tympani lie between mucus and the intermediate fibrous layers. Then now I would like to show one more picture for this tympanic membrane. Okay, so tympanic membrane, it's a partition between the external ear and the middle ear, right? Okay, then. So these are the three layers. What are those layers? This is towards external acoustic meatus, hence it is outer cuticular layer, and this is middle fibrous layer, and the inner mucus layer, which is lined by cuboidal epithelium. Outer is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. The intermediate fibrous layer, it has radiating fibers, okay, like sun rays, and then it has circular fibers also. So because tympanic membrane is a 5 marks question, I want everybody to draw these pictures while answering this question for your final exams. Okay, this is the inner surface of tympanic membrane. This is the handle of malleus, the place where we have maximum convexity of the tympanic membrane is at the attachment of handle of malleus, which is called as umbo. Okay, the upper part of the tympanic membrane is loosely attached. It is lax, hence called as pars flaccida, and lower part is very tightly stretched. You call it as pars tensa, isn't it? So the handle of malleus and then part of incus, it is related to chorda tympani nerve, which is a branch of which nerve? Facial nerve. Okay. So tympanic membrane is divided into upper smaller sector, the pars flaccida, bounded by anterior and posterior malleolar folds, and a larger sector, the pars tensa. Behind pars flaccida lies chorda tympani. So disease in pars flaccida should be treated carefully because it is in close relationship with chorda tympani. If there is any infection in pars flaccida, you are finding chorda tympani is running very close. Okay, we have two folds, no? Anterior and posterior malleolar folds. This is pars flaccida. In case if this nerve is damaged, what will happen? If cauda tympani is damaged, taste sensation of the tongue, which is carried from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, that is special taste sensation, is lost, gone. That's why we have to be careful. Okay, then. So care has to be taken in disease of pars flaccida so that you do not damage cauda tympani nerve. Okay. Those are the various layers of tympanic membrane and it is very closely related to this nerve, cauda tympani. Now coming to the nerve supply of tympanic membrane. So it is supplied by, the lateral surface is supplied by the auriculotemporal nerve. The auricular branch of vagus, medial surface is supplied by glossopharyngeal nerve, tympanic branch, and also cauda tympani. Blood supply comes from deep auricular, anterior tympanic, posterior auricular and stylomastoid branches. Okay, so these are the four quadrants. Okay, when you just look inside the ear with the otoscopy, so that tympanic membrane will be viewed like this into four quadrants: antero-superior, posterior-superior, antero-inferior, posterior-inferior quadrants. So there is a clinical condition which is acute suppurative otitis media. Basically, otitis media is the infection in the middle ear. Okay, so in order to drain the pus from the middle ear, we usually give incision in the tympanic membrane, which is myringotomy. Okay, hence pus is discharged laterally. So incision at posterior inferior quadrant. So usually here we will give the incision in the tympanic membrane by myringotomy and we will allow the pus from the middle ear to drain. Okay. So why are we choosing posterior inferior quadrant? Because we do not want to damage the cauda tympani and it has rich blood supply, hence healing is also very fast. Okay, then tympanic membrane is also called as eardrum, right? So this is the normal tympanic membrane. Okay, and you are finding there is one more picture where you are able to see lot of wax is collected towards the outside of the tympanic membrane. Otoscopic examination, generally the tympanic membrane should look like this and this is the how it looks if wax is collected. So see here we have very good pictures where the otoscopic pictures we have like where the tympanic membrane is ruptured. See, this is such a beautiful picture of tympanic membrane. It has been ruptured. You are able to see the ear ossicles inside. So this this clinical condition is called as perforation of tympanic membrane. So generally, if there is any middle ear infection, I told you we do myringotomy, which is nothing but we are just actually giving a small incision in the tympanic membrane and collecting the pus from the middle ear. Something like this, you can see one bowel is kept here and it is syringing, ear syringing. The tympanic membrane is actually incised and the pus is collected. Tube is inserted into the eardrum. Eardrum is nothing but tympanic membrane. Myringotomy, you can see this tube, retraction pocket. Okay, so otitis media. What is this? Infection of middle ear. Okay, it is acute suppurative otitis media. It looks like this. So serous otitis media. These are all different otoscopic images. So if there is any infection outside, you call it as otitis externa. Okay, if there is any hardening of this tympanic membrane, you call it as tympanosclerosis. So these are the usual clinical conditions associated with tympanic membrane. Now we are moving to very important topic which itself can come as an essay question, that is middle ear. Okay, so I told you middle ear you have to imagine as if it is a room or a cube or a box which has 6 sides. Like it has roof, it has floor, it has lateral wall, it has medial wall, then it has anterior wall and the posterior wall. Okay, So now if you just look at this picture, I'll take you to the first slide. Your picture is little more better. You can see here, this is the middle ear cavity. In the middle ear cavity, this is the roof. Whole of the ear is present in which bone? Temporal bone. So roof is formed by middle cranial fossa. The part of the temporal bone forming the roof of the middle ear, this temporal bone is tegmen tympani. Tegmen tympani. Floor is also formed by a plate of temporal bone which is separating the middle ear cavity from internal jugular vein. Lateral boundary. This is our middle ear, right? This is the lateral boundary away from the midline. How is it formed? By the eardrum, also called as tympanic membrane. This is the medial wall. So medial wall is formed by first turn of cochlea. This first turn of cochlea is given a special name called as promontory. Promontory. And this is the stapes bone, and this is foot plate of stapes which is fixing in the oval window. Okay, so these are the things we have: oval window, round window, promontory. They are actually forming the medial boundary of middle ear. Anteriorly, the middle ear has communication with nasopharynx by means of a tube. This tube is called as eustachian tube, also called as auditory tube or pharyngotympanic tube. The middle ear posterior boundary is, you can feel in your own body behind the ear there is nipple-like projection. What is that? Mastoid process. So try to make it very clear in your mind, like this middle ear is having 6 boundaries: roof, floor, lateral wall, medial wall, anterior and posterior. So you just repeat the video for 2 minutes again and again and listen to what I told you so that you clearly understand the boundaries of middle ear. Okay. Now, see here, this is one picture which you can make use of it and you can draw in your exam when the question comes. So this, I told you, it is like a box, right? Middle ear. So this is roof. How is the roof formed? I said the plate of bone of the temporal bone, it is called as tegmen tympani. This is the temporal bone part which is forming the roof, tegmen tympani. Isn't it? Then floor is also temporal bone which is separating it from internal jugular vein, right? Then, so we have anterior wall. I told you there is a tube connecting with nasopharynx. What is the tube? Pharyngotympanic tube, also called as the eustachian tube. Superiorly in the anterior wall, we have tensor tympani muscle. Okay, the anterior wall is also related to other structures like the branch from internal carotid plexus, okay, which is very close to the internal carotid artery, cauda tympani nerve. Okay, the cauda tympani is related to anterior wall. It is also related to the posterior wall. Okay, this is actually facial canal. We know in the posterior wall of the middle ear, we have the facial canal from where the facial nerve passes. We have studied in our previous class of facial nerve. Do you remember? From the internal acoustic meatus to stylomastoid foramen, inside the temporal bone, we have facial canal. So facial canal is actually extending from the medial wall to the posterior wall of the middle ear. Okay, from the medial wall to the posterior wall of middle ear. So posterior wall is formed by which bone? I said mastoid process where we have mastoid air cells. So posterior wall, there is a communication there. This is called as adytus to mastoid antrum. It means this is an entry point of the mastoid process because mastoid air cells are there. So wherever air is there, middle ear is also a cavity. There also you will have air. So to equalize the pressure of air inside the middle ear and the mastoid air cells, there is a passage in the posterior wall which is called as adytus to mastoid antrum. Okay, then. So here we are also seeing lateral wall is cut. That means tympanic membrane is cut so as to expose the remaining boundaries. Roof, floor, anterior wall, posterior wall, medial wall. 5 boundaries we are able to see because we have sacrificed the tympanic membrane. Okay. Now, you are finding on the medial wall, we have oval window where foot plate of stapes is fixed. Then we have round window. Okay, I told you there is first turn of cochlea, which is called as promontory. So on the medial wall, what are the various things you have to list out? We have prominence of lateral semicircular canal. We have prominence of facial canal. We have oval window. We have round window. We have promontory where we have the branches of internal carotid plexus, lesser petrosal nerve, which forms the, and also tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay, that's all you have in fact. So on the posterior wall, we have seen adductus to mastoid antrum, facial canal also we saw there is one pyramidal eminence and again cauda tympani nerve. Okay, so please practice this picture and imagine middle ear with a room with 6 boundaries. In the room where you are sitting, you have roof, you have floor, you have anterior wall, you have posterior wall, you have medial wall, lateral wall. So now let us elaborate each and every point. So this is the roof, right? Where arrow has been shown. So this is formed by a plate of temporal bone, which is tegmen tympani. Thin bony plate. This is actually found in the middle cranial fossa. This petrous part of the temporal bone. It separates the tympanic cavity. This is the tympanic cavity from middle cranial fossa. So here the roof is pierced by lesser and greater petrosal nerves. Okay. Then applied anatomy, if it is not ossified, like you see in the newborn babies and small children, if it is unossified, the infection from the middle ear can easily spread to the middle cranial fossa. That means it is the spread of infection can take place to the meninges, causing meningitis. Okay. So in the newborn babies, usually we have cartilage in place of bone. So infection can easily spread if it is not ossified. Okay. Then floor. So which is the floor here? So this is the floor, right? So floor is the floor of jugular fossa, posteriorly and posterior wall of ascending part of the carotid artery, internal carotid artery anteriorly, internal jugular vein and the carotid artery. This is all floor. The tympanic canaliculus for the tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve. Applied anatomy here. Suppose if the floor is not ossified, the infection can spread to internal jugular vein. So the blood inside the internal jugular vein may clot. That is called as thrombosis. Formation of blood clot. Suppose if it is not ossified, the middle ear infections can spread to the internal jugular vein, causing blood clot inside the vein. That condition is thrombosis. Now coming to anterior wall. So which is the anterior wall here? This picture has helped us understand very easily. So anterior wall, the place where we have an opening for the eustachian tube like this one. This is the anterior wall. Middle ear communication with the nasopharynx, where we have a tube, auditory tube or pharyngotympanic tube or the eustachian tube. So this is our anterior wall. It is shortened by approximation of roof and floor. Anteriorly, it shows posterior wall of carotid canal, canal for tensor tympani. This is tensor tympani, and then there is a passage for auditory tube. Same thing is labeled here. It becomes very clear. In fact, so there is a passage for tensor tympani muscle in the anterior wall. There is a passage for pharyngotympanic tube also. Okay. Then, so there is a projection which is called as processus trochleariformis, which is bony shelf extending back on the medial wall. Okay, so this is our medial wall. That means the shelf is moving like this from the anterior to medial wall, and then it is turning laterally. So which is acting as a pulley for this muscle, that is tensor tympani. Okay, so we have photos from different actually textbooks. Here you can see the middle cranial fossa just to show, make it clear, like this is the roof. Here we have brain, sulci coverings are meninges. So if roof is not ossified, infection from middle ears can spread to brain. If floor is not ossified, infection from the middle ear can spread to the veins causing thrombosis. Okay, this is the carotid canal where you have internal carotid artery in association with which wall? Anterior wall. Once we are done with the anterior wall, let us go with the labeled picture of posterior wall. So posterior wall, I said it is basically related to mastoid process. There is a passage there. This passage is additus to mastoid antrum, isn't it? So in the posterior wall, we also have facial canal where you are finding the facial nerve is passing. You are finding there is pyramidal eminence. Okay, cauda tympani nerve also is related to posterior wall. Okay. So this posterior wall is this complete one. So this is wider above than below. Here there is an opening, that is additus, to connect it with mastoid process. Inside mastoid process, we have mastoid air cells. In order to equalize the air pressure between the middle ear and the mastoid air cells, we have a passage called as additus to mastoid antrum. This is the facial canal where we can see the passage of facial nerve. Okay, this is pyramid. Tendon emerges from apex. Okay, then posterior canaliculus of cauda tympani nerve. This one. This is the posterior canaliculus for cauda tympani nerve. Now coming to medial wall, let us see the labeled picture first. So the medial wall is all this. I told you, like lateral wall has been opened so as to see this square-like structure for our understanding. This is all medial wall. So in the medial wall, we are finding the prominence of lateral semicircular canal, which is a part of internal ear. We are also finding facial canal. There is an opening where the foot plate of stapes is fixing here, that is oval window. Okay, there is one more window called as round window. The first turn of cochlea is promontory. Okay, and many cranial nerves forming a plexus over here, lesser petrosal, internal carotid plexus, tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerves. So all these things we find on the medial wall, right? Let us go into the texted thing of medial wall once we are done with this. So we have promontory due to the basal turn of cochlea. There we have tympanic plexus, glossopharyngeal nerve lies over promontory. Oval window, which is fenestrae vestibuli. Behind and above promontory, we saw the oval window. Closed by base of stapes, also called as foot plate of stapes, is fixing in the oval window. And there you have a ligament called as annular ligament. Okay, round window. This is fenestrae cochleae. Oval window is fenestrae vestibuli. Round window is fenestrae cochleae, which is below and behind promontory, closed by secondary tympanic membrane. Then facial canal above and behind promontory. Oblique part runs back and down above oval window. Prominence of lateral semicircular canal above facial canal. Okay. These are all structures what we saw. Okay, the same things are listed here. Then, this is all medial wall. Okay, this is the foot plate of stapes fixing in the oval window. You can see it more clearly here. Foot plate of stapes fixing in the oval window. Okay, this is fenestrae vestibulae, fenestrae cochleae. This is promontory, right? So these are all things what we see on the medial side of the middle ear. That is medial wall. Okay, this is the tympanic plexus contributed by carotid glossopharyngeal nerves, right? Then lateral wall. How is the lateral wall formed? We have tympanic membrane. So whatever we have studied under tympanic membrane, you can elaborate here because middle ear is an essay question. Okay, the area above the attachment of tympanic membrane of the middle ear, this particular area is epitympanic recess, part above the tympanic cavity. So where we have upper half of the malleus, greater part of incus, this black line. Above this black line, whatever area is there, that is epitympanic recess, where we have malleus and greater part of incus. Okay, now let us see what are the various communications middle ear has. So through anterior wall, it is communicating with nasopharynx through eustachian tube, auditory tube. Posterior wall, it has an opening that is mastoid antrum, adductus to mastoid antrum. Medial wall, it is communicating with the inner ear, fenestrae vestibulae and fenestrae cochleae. Lateral wall shows tympanic membrane. Roof and floor has no communications unless they are not ossified as you see during infancy. Otherwise, we do not have any communications in the tegment tympani and the floor. So now coming to the contents of middle ear. The ear ossicles, what we have in the ear are three. MIS is the code, that is malleus, incus, and stapes. Okay. Then the parts of the malleus are, it has head, neck, then it has anterior process, lateral process, and handle. The parts of malleus are, it has short limb, it has long limb, and then it has body. And this is the place where incus articulate with malleus. Okay. So incudo-malleolar joint is formed. Okay, incudo-malleolar joint. The joint is like this. This is malleus bone. Okay, this is incus bone and this is stapes bone. Okay, so malleus, incus, and stapes. So incus bone has short limb, long limb. This is the body of incus, and this is the point where malleus is coming and articulating. Okay. Incudo-malleolar joint. Then stapes, this is the base or foot plate of stapes. It has anterior limb, posterior limb, and this is head of stapes. So three bones we have, okay, in order MIS, malleus, incus, and stapes. This is malleus bone, this is incus bone, and this is stapes bone. Okay, so foot plate of stapes is fixing in the oval window, which is connecting the middle ear to the internal ear. So these are the various parts which I have already discussed. You need not go into much details. Okay. Inside the middle ear, we have two muscles. One is tensor tympani and the other is stapedius. Okay. So tensor tympani, it is actually coming from the bony and cartilaginous part. So better we see the picture of this muscle first. So this is the tensor tympani muscle, okay, which is closely associated with the auditory tube. Okay, so this is our auditory tube, right, which is actually communicating the middle ear cavity with the nasopharynx. So it closely related, we have the tensor tympani muscle. So tensor tympani muscle, now it is coming from this picture, you can make out, it is coming from the bony and cartilaginous part of the auditory tube. So it becomes tendon or hook-like around processus cochleariformis, insertion, handle of malleus, upper part, nerve supply, nerve to medial pterygoid, action, it pulls the handle of malleus and makes the tympanic membrane concave and makes it tense, increases tight adhesions of foot plate to fenestra vestibulae, and it just, the main function is it dampens, that means it reduces the sounds. Okay, then we have another muscle inside the middle ear cavity called as stapedius. So, which is coming from the interior of hollow pyramid. Okay, so this is the tendon of stapedius muscle. So nerve supply insertion is back of the neck of the stapes. Nerve supply is facial nerve. Action retracts the neck of stapes from fenestra vestibulae. And if suppose if this muscle is paralyzed due to the damage of facial nerve, even small sounds appear very loud. That condition is hyperacusis. Hyperacusis. Okay, so this tympanic membrane pictures I have already shown. Now coming to the internal ear. So I said in the internal ear we have bony shell. Okay, that is the bony cochlea and the bony labyrinth. So if you break this bony shell, we have the membranous labyrinth. So inside the membranous labyrinth, this 2.5 turns is for cochlea. And these are the semicircular canals. Okay, so communicating, we have anterior, posterior and lateral semicircular canals, and the place where it is bulged, these are the ampullae parts of the semicircular canals. Okay, so let us talk a few points about the eustachian tube, that is auditory tube or pharyngotympanic tube. In which wall of the middle ear we saw? It is found in the anterior wall, which is connecting the middle ear cavity, that is tympanic cavity and nasopharynx. It runs downwards, forwards and medially from middle ear at 45 degrees angle. The length is 36 mm, two unequal cones connected at apices. Okay. Then laterally it is made up of bone, which is lateral bony 1/3, which is 12 mm, widest tympanic end. At anterior wall of tympanic cavity, narrowest isthmus, the diameter is 0.5 mm. Medial cartilaginous part, open medially, it is 1 to 1.25 centimeters behind and below posterior end of inferior turbinate at nasopharynx. Torus tuberous, behind it pharyngeal recess, fossa frozen Miller it is called. Okay. So the contents of middle ear, we have seen 3 bones, 3 ear ossicles, malleus, incus and stapes. Muscles at ansa, tympani and stapedius. We will see mucosal folds. We will see the nerves and the blood vessels. Okay. Then, so what are the various nerves we see here? Chorda tympani, tympanic plexus, and the vessels are plexus of vessels of stylomastoid artery and corticotympanic artery. Okay. So I said posterior wall, we have mastoid process. Inside mastoid process, we have mastoid air cells, right? So there is a communication here between the posterior wall and the middle ear cavity, and the passage is adductus, connects epitympanum with mastoid. Okay, then. So antrum is the largest air cell in the mastoid bone. So many empty spaces, when you break the mastoid process, these are actually called as mastoid air cells. Okay. So in this picture, actually, this is a thing which is discussed in a nutshell to show the relations of mastoid. Okay. So like overall, this is ear, and we know the roof is helping in communication with middle cranial fossa. Inferiorly, we have jugular bulb, where we have digastric muscle, sternocleidomastoid, isn't it? Anteriorly, it is in communication through the eustachian tube. Outside, laterally, we have tympanic membrane, and medially, we have like so many structures like oval window, round window, and promontory. Posteriorly, we know it is in communication with the mastoid process. Okay. The blood supply of middle ear comes from middle meningeal artery, maxillary artery, ascending pharyngeal artery, and posterior auricular artery. Nerve supply, like sensory tympanic branch of the ninth cranial nerve. It's also called as Jacobson's nerve, that is the glossopharyngeal. Motor tensor tympani is supplied by mandibular division and stapedius is supplied by facial, and we have seen the lymphatic drainage. The interesting fact, wearing of headphones for just an hour will increase the bacteria in your ear by 700 times. Now coming to the internal ear, we have labyrinth, which is bony and membranous labyrinth. Okay, inside, like see, this is the bony shell. So the bony labyrinth, we have cochlea, fenestrae vestibulae, fenestrae tympani, ampulla, semicircular canals. Okay, so bony labyrinth has vestibule. Okay, it has semicircular canals and it has cochlea, bony shell. So this is bony shell, and inside the bony shell, we have the organ of Corti, that is for the cochlea. The cochlea is partially divided into upper scala vestibulae, scala media, and scala tympani. I hope you have studied this when you were doing physiology as well. Okay, see the outside is the bony shell, inside is the membranous one. So the membranous labyrinth, it has in the middle, you can see there is saccule, utricle, there is one endolymphatic duct, endolymphatic sac, membranous semicircular canals, and membranous cochlear labyrinth. Okay. So we have few more pictures which is showing us the bony shell. There is the bony labyrinth inside which we have the membranous labyrinth, right? Okay. So this is the membranous labyrinth. So you can see inside the cochlea, we have three subdivisions: scala vestibulae, scala tympani, and scala media. In the scala media, this is the basement membrane over which we have different cells are resting, which are special sensory neurons for the purpose of hearing. So this is nothing but organ of Corti. This is the tectorial membrane. The outside scala vestibuli is filled with perilymph. Scala tympani also we have perilymph. Inside this scala media we have endolymph. This is all will vibrate and the hair cells will come in contact with the tectorial membrane whenever there is some vibration which is actually coming from the external ear, middle ear, and then internal ear. So whenever hair cells come in contact with tectorial membrane, the action potential develops and these sound waves are carried by means of this cochlear nerve, which you usually learn in physiology. As far anatomy is concerned, usually middle ear is important and the internal ear part we can do from physiology. Okay. So internal ear or labyrinth lies in the petrous part of the temporal bone. It has bony labyrinth within which there is membranous labyrinth. The bony labyrinth has cochlea anteriorly, vestibule in the middle, semicircular canals posteriorly. Okay, this is cochlea, this is vestibule, and these are the semicircular canals. So cochlea forms the anterior part of the labyrinth. It has a conical central axis known as modulus, around which cochlear canal makes 2 and 3/4 turns. A spiral ridge of bone, spiral lamina, projects from the modulus and partially divides the cochlear canal into scala vestibuli above, scala tympani below. The division between the two passages is completed by basilar membrane. Nothing but this one. This is all bony shell. So this is the basilar membrane. So we have three compartments: scala vestibulae, scala media, and scala tympani. Okay, then. Vestibule is the central part of the bony labyrinth. Three semicircular canals open into its posterior wall. So the semicircular canals, there are three bony semicircular canals. An anterior or superior, you can just see first and then understand. We have anterior semicircular, posterior semicircular, and lateral semicircular canals. They are all opening in the utricle. Okay, and you are finding the place where they start, there is a bulge which is called as ampulla. Okay, then. So the semicircular canals are anterior or superior, posterior and lateral. Each has two ends. Three canals open in the vestibule by 5 openings. Anterior is one has one opening. Posterior semicircular canal also has one opening. One end of posterior semicircular canal joins one end of anterior semicircular canal to form crus commune. That is together they form one opening. Lateral semicircular canal has two openings. So membranous labyrinth, the epithelium of membranous labyrinth is specialized to form receptors for sound, that is nothing but organ of Corti, this one. Okay. Then for static balance, the macule, and for kinetic balance, the cristae. Membranous labyrinth also consists of three main parts: the spiral duct of cochlea or organ of Corti anteriorly, utricle and saccule with maculae, the organs of static balance within the vestibule, and semicircular ducts with cristae, that is the organ of kinetic balance posteriorly. Okay. So these are like, for just see here, this is utricle and this is saccule. Saccule lies in the antero-inferior part of vestibule. Utricle is larger than saccule and lies in the posterior-superior part of vestibule. It receives the ends of three semicircular ducts through 5 openings. Medial wall of saccule and utricle are thickened to form maculae in each chamber. The semicircular ducts. Three semicircular ducts lie within corresponding bony canals. Each duct has ampulla. In each ampulla, there is an end organ called as ampullary crest or crista. The cristae respond to pressure changes in the endolymph caused by the movements of head. So overall, now coming to the blood supply of labyrinth, from the labyrinthine branch of basilar artery, from the stylomastoid branch of posterior auricular artery, labyrinthine vein drains into petrosal or transverse sinus. Development: external acoustic meatus develops from the dorsal part of the first ectodermal cleft. Auricle tubercles appearing on the first and second pharyngeal arches around the opening of external acoustic meatus. Middle ear cavity and auditory tube comes from tubotympanic recess. Ossicles: malleus and incus from the first pharyngeal arch, stapes from the second pharyngeal arch, cartilage. Muscles: tensor tympani from first pharyngeal arch, mesodermal origin, stapedius from the second pharyngeal arch, mesodermal origin. Membranous labyrinth from the ectodermal vesicle on each side of the hindbrain vesicle, organ of Corti is derived from the ectoderm. Okay. There are certain interesting facts to remember if you can. Tympanic membrane is developing from ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Outer aspect of tympanic membrane is supplied by part of trigeminal and vagus nerves. Syringing of ear may cause slowing of heart rate and feeling of nausea. Malleus and incus develop from first pharyngeal arch, while stapes develop from second pharyngeal arch. Tensor tympani develops from the first arch and it is supplied by the trigeminal nerve, mandibular subdivision, while stapedius develops from second pharyngeal arch and it is supplied by the facial nerve. Suprameatal triangle, which is also called as McEwen's triangle, demarcates the position of mastoid antrum at the depth of 12 to 13 millimeters in adult. Eustachian tube equalizes the pressure on both the sides of tympanic membrane. And one more thing, eustachian tube is straight in case of small children, hence infection from the nasopharynx can easily spread to the middle ear in small children. Hence, if there is any running nose, there is pain in the middle ear, which is otitis media. Such pain is more common during childhood than adults because eustachian tube becomes oblique as the age advances, whereas in small children, it is straight. Eustachian tube is straight, hence the infection from the nasopharynx can easily spread to middle ear, causing otitis media. Okay, then malleus, incus, and stapes are bones within the bone. I told you whole of the ear is situated in petrous temporal bone. And within this bone, we have three small ossicles, which are Miss Malleus, Incus, and Stapes. We have two joints between these three bones, right? Between the Malleus and Incus, we have incudomalleolar joint. Between the Incus and Stapes, we have incudostapedial joint, okay, which are fully developed at birth. See these two joints, in fact, this is incus bone, malleus bone. In between them, we have incudomalleolar joint, which is saddle type of joint. Then here, between the incus and stapes, we have incudostapedial joint, which is ball and socket type of joint. Next, it's so much about ear, and you can see like it is an engineering marvel. One may slowly become deaf to soft sounds if one is continuously exposed to lot of loud sounds, as we do generally hearing music, especially during this lockdown period. Be careful to save your ears. Okay. Before we end, like let us see the blood supply of internal ear. So branches coming from the basilar artery, we have anterior, inferior cerebellar branches, internal auditory branches, common cochlear, anterior vestibular arteries, main cochlear, posterior vestibular, posterior semicircular branches, anterior semicircular branches. These are the various branches we have. Okay. So overall, before I conclude, I will just summarize like what are the important topics which you are supposed to remember in the year topic. First thing is very important is tympanic membrane, which can come for 5 marks or 3 marks. Second thing, middle ear, it is an essay question which usually comes for 15 marks. Auditory tube may come for 3 marks. External auditory meatus may come for 3 marks. Okay, basically internal ear usually doesn't come under anatomy as an important topic. So please focus on tympanic membrane and middle ear, especially followed by auditory tube and eustachian tube. Sorry, auditory tube and external acoustic meatus. Okay, wish you very all the best, all of you.